attention. All right, I again did the odds with my first period class. Now I'll do the evens with you guys. Then if you're having any troubles, you can kind of go back and look through the answers. All right, let me show you the difficulty here. All right, super hard. Please pay attention. All right, question number 2. Square root of 3 times square root of 21, or times square root of 7 is? Square root of 21.
Really? Dude.
That is difficult.
Really?
I know.
You have this sense of humor where you like something you think is funny and you're so
Wait,
serious.
I can tell that my dad. My dad lies to me out. Yeah, he
Oh.
tells that all the time. Mr. Stroke.
All right, trust me. Trust me. Okay, so if you want, we can start at the bottom. See how good.
Yes.
I gotta slow down for someone up front. Here we go. Number. No.
Wait, are
wrong.
you telling me that 3 times 7 is 21?
Square root is 65.
Oh.
All right.
Didn't actually
Now, that is kind of radical, yes. No. Now listen, let's get through, because again, the quicker I get through, the less you have. All right. Now, stay with me again. I know that square root of 65 is not going to break down. And again, I just want to make sure you hear me on this. Because 13 is prime and 5 is prime, if you multiply them together, they will not break down. All right? Everybody with me? All right? So now, if we're looking at question number 6, we can easily say that's just the square root of 91a. All right? The square root of 91a. Number 8, obviously, we would say then the square root of 34b. Now again, if we look at question number 10, notice 3 is prime, 7 is prime, and 5 is prime. So all we have to do is multiply them together, and that will be our answer. So we would say the square root of 105. Now, like I said, how do I know that? Because if you break that down, you'll be breaking it down to 5, 7, and 3, and there's nothing you can pull out. Everybody with me? All right? So now, the first 10 are the easy ones. The first 10 are the really easy. Now, it's a little bit harder. Now what I want you to do is I really want you to pay attention, because I'm trying to teach you how to think about numbers a little bit differently than normal. All right? So here's what the average kid says. The average kid says square root of 7 times square root of 7 is the square root of 49, and then the square root of 49 is 7. Because we are not the average kid, we do not say the square root of 7 times square root of 7 is square root of 49. We simply say it's 7. All right? The reason why we're allowed to do that is because, remember, square roots is you're taking things out in groups of what? 2. That's what you're doing. All right? Now, somebody in my other class said, well, what am I really doing? All right? What am I really doing? You're trying to find the number multiplied by itself is that number. All right? That's what the square root is. All right? So it is a math operation. All right? That's very important. All right? Think about, for example, if you're finding the area of a square. If you know the area to find the length, all right, you just have to take the square root of the area. All right, because you're trying to find a number multiplied by itself. That's what we're dealing with here. All right, so listen carefully, please. Now, for question number 14, I do not want you to tell me it's the square root of 75, and then you break the square root of 75 down into 25 times 3, and you say the square root of 25 is 5, so the answer is 5 radical 3. I do not want you to tell me that. I want you to look at that and tell me the obvious answer is 5 radical 3. And here's how I'm trying to teach you how to think of those numbers. All right? The square root of 15 has a 5 in it. All right? Now, I'm just writing this down so you can see. All right? But this is something you're going to be doing mentally. There is a 5 in 15. Right? So now I see that there are how many 5s? 2. Since we're taking them out in groups of 2, that comes out as a what? That comes out as a 5. And then what is left behind? The 3 is left behind. All right, the 3 is left behind. All right, that's how I want you to do it. All right, what? All right, the thing is, these problems right here, you might say, well, I can just multiply them together and then try to break them down. I'm going to give you an example, all right, of something that might convince you differently. If I said, what's the square root of 3 times the square root of 46? All right, I want you to look at that and immediately say, well, the answer is just what? Who knows? No. Come on, guys. The answer is obviously good. 23 radical 2. Don't even say I don't know. Instead of saying I don't know, why don't you look up there and say, how did he get that? No, in your own little mind. That's what you're doing. All right? Now, how do I see that that's 23 radical 2? Because I know 46 is 23 times 2. So there are what? There are 2 23s, so that comes out as a 23. Henry, come on. All right, that comes out as a 23, and the 2 is left behind. Something like this. If I said, for example, the square root of 22 times the square root of 33, I don't want to multiply those together. I want you to say, what number do I see in both of those? 11. And then what's 2 times 3? That's how you should be looking at those. You're taking them out in groups of 2. You're trying to find the number that's in both numbers. All right? So now, over here, what is in both numbers? 2. So I'm going to pull a 2 out. Stay with me. And then what's left behind here? 5. And what's left behind here? Now, I'm not going to multiply those. The reason I'm not going to multiply them is because 4 is also what? A perfect square. So I can pull the 4 out as a what? 2. So now my answer is 4 radical 5. My answer is 4 radical 5. That's what I'm saying. You've got to listen to me. I'm trying to train your brain to see numbers differently. We're not always multiplying just because it says multiply. All right? So let's see if you're making, or if I'm making any sense. All right? What number is in both?
3A.
What else is in both? An A. Very good. And then what's left behind? That's your answer. All right, you're getting the hang of it. Getting the hang of it. All right? Now, again, this one is a little bit different now because you're multiplying rational numbers together and you're allowed to multiply irrationals together. You cannot multiply, for example, this 3 times that 5 because the 3 is rational and the 5 is irrational. All right, so your job is to always multiply rationals together and multiply irrationals together. So what do I mean by that? I mean, what number's in front of the 5? 1. All right, so in this case, it's just 3 times 1?
3.
Square root of 2 times square root of 5. There you have it. It's really and truly that simple. All right, really and truly that simple. Remember, what I always try to tell kids here, too, is if you're not understanding, don't ask a bunch of questions right now. Look at the only way to make 3 and 10. There's only one way. All right, you can figure that out. All right, so now when I ask you about 22, if you understood 20, you now know that 22 would be what? 6 radical 55. 6 radical 55. Are they good with that? I'm telling you, it's very simple. You look at it. What is this right here? Rational or irrational? Very good. Rational. Right? What is this? Very good. Irrational. Very good. One is outside the square root. One is under the square root. So this 2 would be considered rational. The 3 would be what? Rational. That's how I came up with 6. All right? If the number's outside, it's considered rational. If it's inside, it's considered what? Irrational. And again, I already told you, irrational means a number that cannot be written as a fraction. All right? Everybody good? That makes sense now, right? If it's under the radical, it's irrational. All right, so let's take a look at 24. Okay, so now, for those of you guys who've been paying attention, you should be able to quickly look at that and tell me that is 36 radical 2, right? 36 radical 2, without hesitating. Without hesitating. All right, now I'm going to go slow for you. For those of you guys who are like, wait a minute. All right, first of all, what's 4 times 3? 12. Now, instead of doing 3 times 6 and get 18, you just recognize right off the bat there's a common what? There's a common 3. No, not 9 and 2. There is a common 3. All right, what do I mean by that? 6 is 3 times 2. If you multiply 3 times 6 is 18, yes, you can break it down to 9 and 2, but that's not what I want you to do. I want you to find the perfect square first. So it'd be 12. Now there is a common 3, right? So you pull out the 3, and what's left behind? Very good, 2. So your final answer, 12 times 3 is what? 36 radical 2. 36 radical 2. So far, so good? Math. All math. Here we go. 26. All right, so now, listen to me now and see if you understand this. All right, so if you understand what I'm doing. The answer is the square root of 15 minus 3. All I did was I just distributed a square root of 3. That's it. All right? I just distributed a square root of 3. Square root of 3 times square root of 5 is square root of 15. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3. Who said that? It is. What's the square root of 9? Right? So instead of multiplying, you're still not there yet. Anytime you see a number occurs twice, it comes outside as that number. All right? So here we go for number 28. All right, Casey, be brave. Tell me what the answer is. Shh. Let's see how good Mr. Holt is. What? Tell Mr. Holt he got a big fat F for the day. All right, you. Oh, here we go. Tell me. You are awesome. Very nice. 2 radical 21 plus 21. What? Now look, she's got a great question, so stop and listen. Stop and listen. All right, this I think I've tried to tell you guys is truly one of the most important things that can help you learn. All right, it has nothing to do with math. It has the ability for you to look up there and you to see, how did I make 21? Very good, 7 times 3, that's where the 21 came from. All right, so again, it's not some big revelation here. You just said, look, he's saying something I'm not 100% sure, but this is what I think he did. And then you test your hypothesis on other problems. You see what I'm saying? So this so far is 21. Now, you have to multiply this times this. And what's the square root of 7 times square root of 7? Come on, come on. All right, you can easily figure this stuff out. Easily. All right, what? 7 times 3, is that 21? No problem. What is the square root of 7 times the square root of 7? Times is you're distributing. You do distribute it properly. All right, let me just say one more thing real quick. And this sounds kind of dumb, but honestly, I can tell you, I had to figure a lot of things out on my own. And so here's what I used to do. 3 parentheses 2x plus 5. Right? I just went back to something that I've known forever, and then I just am doing what? You're distributing a 3. So the answer here is 6x plus 15. So I'm applying that information to this problem. I'm distributing a square root of 7. That's what I'm doing. I'm distributing a square root of 7 because it's the same principle as distributing the 3. Does that make sense? What? Multiply what? Because that's what it says to do. That says multiply 3 times that answer. You're saying, look, I could do this. 3 times 2x plus 3 times 5. Right? But again, we would simplify what we can. All right? Now, all right, 30. Just please pay attention for 30 for a second. Don't try to tell me the answer because you're probably wrong. You put the answer down, and then you can embarrass yourself when I write my answer down. All right? So here we go. The answer is... Uh-oh. I already made a mistake.
Oops.
Yes!
No. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I got 2 radical 5 plus 2.
Same.
I got 7. Wait, probably 6 and 7.
I understand it.
I know.
I get it.
All right, let me show you again. Shh, quiet and listen. Here we go. If I said, for example, x plus 2 times x minus 1, that answer is not x squared minus 2. That is not x squared minus 2. All right. You have to do the what? The happy smiley faces. All right. So here we go. Let me backtrack a little bit for some of you guys who are still going, oh, I don't even know what he's talking about. All right. So here we go. I'll go super slow motion. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. All right. Very good so far. All right. Now you're doing your smiley face. How much is that? Negative 2 radical 5. Thank you. Then I'm doing my other smiley face. Negative 1 radical 5. So negative 2 radical 5 and negative 1 radical 5 is? Wow. Negative 3 radical 5. And then the hard part, negative 2 times negative 1.
12,000.
Very good, Walker. Man. Positive 2. So your final answer is 7 minus 3 radical 5. Yeah, you were kind of close. I saw that. All right?
I understand what you did, but I don't get this.
All right. Everybody,
Wait.
try 32.
I'm
I'm even feeling generous. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Go.
Go back up. Oh, I get it. Go back up, please.
Oh, we got an answer. Good. Go.
What?
Tell us, please. Help him. Stop interrupting. Go. Tell me again. Oh, wow. Very nice.
Yes.
Pat yourself on the back. It feels so good, doesn't it? Feels good to be brilliant. Here we go. Let me show you. I'm going to go slow for some of you guys who need that. Here we go. You got really close. The problem is square root of 2 times square root of 2. 2. Brilliant. All right. Then we have smiley face. How much is this? 3 radical 2. You're supposed to be able to hold that in your head. If not, just write down on your paper 3 radical 2. Then you do the other smiley face. How much is that? -7 radical 2. So if you had 3 and you subtract 7, -4 radical. Are you with me? -4 radical 2. And then 3 times -7, -21. So 2 minus 21 today is? No.
-9.
-19 minus 4 radical 2. She's brilliant. Hey, leave her alone. Leave her alone. I mean it. Okay, 34. Here we go. Everybody should be able to quickly tell. I already gave you a shot. You weren't even close. Hold up a minute. Hold up. Casey is going to try to redeem himself. Do not embarrass me. This is on tape. Go. What? Yes, okay, you're right. Because what happens to the middle term?
They cancel.
They cancel. So now in this case, it is 7 minus 25, which -18. Almost.
No.
All right, almost.
Oh, you're so
All right, here we go. 36. Come on.
Oh, this is.
Hold up. We're going to let Zoe get a shot.
Let me do this one.
Zoe. I know. Zoe. Last chance.
Two.
Good guess. Good guess. All right. Anybody have any questions with that being 2? That's all right. Come on. You have a question or not? Square root of 11 times square root of 11 is what? 11. What happens to the middle term? It cancels out. -3 times +3. There you go. Here we go. Tyler. Shh, don't embarrass me. Go.
That's what I
All right.
got.
A minus 16. A minus 16 is correct. What's the matter? Do you have any issues?
When you multiply variables,
Nothing gets by you, McCall. We appreciate that. All right. Here we go. What?
So I get how you got -16, but I don't get how
Because -4 radical A and +4 radical A is 0. All right. The signs change. All right. Just to make sure you're hearing me. -4, +4. All right. Anybody else? Uh-oh, here we go. Aspen's got number 40.
Okay, I got 14 minus 8 radical 5.
What?
That's not what I got.
Here it goes.
I got 5 minus 6 radical 5 plus 9. No.
What? No, not you. You.
4.
What?
4 minus 6 radical 5. That's what I got. That's what I got right there. That's what I got. I got that. This. If I said it wrong. I got that. I got that.
What do we get here? Listen, if you want a good laugh, here you go.
14 minus 6 radical 5. Yeah. No.
All right.
Zoe, hold it. Don't erase it yet.
Okay, here we go. Now, again, listen. Listen. All right, for this one, when you square something, girls, I'm. All right, when you square something, remember you have to. The first term and the last term don't just cancel each other out. All right, it's the same exact principle. All right, square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. Now here's where most of you made a mistake. You forgot the insides, right? You forgot the little smiley face. So that's negative 6 radical 5. And then negative 3 times negative 3 is your positive 9. All right, so lots of ways to make little mistakes there. Final answer, 14 minus 6 radical 5. All right?
I basically did it.
Basically. All right? If that's not what you said, then it's wrong. All right, so here we go. Number 42. Here we go. William, go. Shh. I know, I'm sorry. Go. Say it again.
Simplify it.
Shh. Thank you, Nate. Nate, no, he's right. Listen, the reason why, you guys, we got to get through, all right? So again, here, there's nothing to add or subtract. The reason why there's nothing to add or subtract is because they're not the same. X has nothing to do with 8 radical x, and 16 has nothing to do with either of those. So that is the answer. Thank you very much. Easy, easy. All right? Now, I want everybody to take a look at 44, because again, the multiplication and the division kind of are the same. All right? So what I want you to remember is 108 divided by 3 is the square root of 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. Okay? So you can divide just like you can what? Multiply. All right? So listen, do 108 divided by 3. What is 108 divided by 3? There you go. What's the square root of 36? 6. All right, that's what we were doing when we did the multiplication. That's what I'm trying to show you. The multiplication, you just multiply them together. The division, you can do what? Divide them. All right, so if I'm looking at 46, that just breaks down into the square root of 16m squared. I would want you to reduce the fraction first. Then from there, you take the square root, which would be what? 4m, which would be 4m. All right. Any questions or concerns? All right. Let's take a look now at the next. All right. Now, a little bit different. Most people here want to go 12 divided by 6. You cannot. The reason why you can't is because there's an addition sign. You cannot reduce through addition and subtraction. You cannot reduce through addition and subtraction. All right? So the first thing we need to do is we need to simplify 108, which we just did. That's 36 times 3. So the square root of 36 is 6. So that's 12 plus 6 radical 3 over 6. Now, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to recognize that each one of these now can be divided by 6. So if all terms can be divided by 6, you can divide by 6. So the final answer now is 2 plus 1 radical 3. Now I understand the 1 doesn't have to be there, but I'm just emphasizing the 6 divided by 6 is what? 1. All right? Now let's look at 567. All right? So 567, the quickest way is to look at that and say, well, if you add up the digits, it's divisible by 9, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So now if you take 567 and divide it by 9, that becomes 18 plus 3, and then what would that be? 63 over 9? And then 63 can break down to 9 times 7. So that's going to be 18 plus 9 radical 7 over 9. All right, now again, I just broke down 567. I want you to be able to do that as well. All right, I chose 9 because I just added the digits up. All right. 5 plus 6 plus 7 is 18. Therefore, I knew it was divisible by 9. All right. Now you can reduce that. So 2 plus radical 7. All right. Now, Wow, how many times are we going to do 108? A lot. All right, so this is negative 9 minus 6 radical 3 over 3. So then I divide negative 3 minus 2 radical 3. Divide numbers together or divide rationals and rationals. That is correct. Divide, listen now, what we're saying. You can divide rational numbers and you can divide irrational. You can't ever take an irrational and divide it by a rational. All right? They have to be the same. Either both rational or both irrational. All right? So let's look at the next one. All right, well, 20 is a really easy one. That's what? Right, we should know that's 6 minus, without doing much work, 2 radical 5 over 2, which is 3 minus radical 5. And again, how many times have we done 48? All right, everybody should look at that and say that's 4 radical 3. So now we know the answer is 2 plus radical 3. All right, any questions with that? All right, any questions? All right, now let's take a look quickly at 57, just for a quick second. To find the area, that should be pretty obvious. Just multiplying length times width. So the square root of 3 times the square root of 11 is the square root of what? 33. And then I would prefer that you write units squared. Because we're measuring what? Area. We're measuring area. It'd be cubes. That's right. All right, so now I want to take a look at number 58. All right. Everybody should try square root of 3 plus 5 times square root of 3 plus 5. All right, and see if you agree. All right, take a look at it. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is what? 3. Now we do our smiley face. What's that? 1 radical 15.
Oh.
What is this? 1 radical 15. 1 radical 15 plus 1 radical 15 gives me 1. Stop. 1 radical 15 plus 1 radical 15 gives me 2 radical 15. All right, remember, I always try to tell kids the number in front tells you how many you have. Is everybody with me? Because a common mistake is to just accidentally add 15 plus 15. All right, we're not adding. All right, you're adding the coefficients or the numbers in front. And then the last step would be square root of 5 times square root of 5, which is what? Or we just want to say 5. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 is just 5. And I want you to say square root of 25. All right? Anytime you multiply the same number together, the radical goes away. And then, of course, now 3 plus 5 we can combine is what? 8. All right? Now, can I put the 8 with the 2 radical 15? No. One's rational and one is irrational. All right, so that's the final answer. And of course, since we're measuring area, we're going to go with what? Squares. All right. Now, again, listen to me, guys. I really think today is super, super important. All right, getting you a little bit used to radicals now and square roots. All right. So your job is to make sure you can see the patterns. All right. And now your job is to do what? Yes, go through and do the odds. All right, if you're struggling a little bit, you're not sure about a few things, the odds are posted. All right, go look it up. All right, go look up the answers and make sure you're correct. Anybody have any questions? All right, now get busy. Finish up.